out there, friends of Walden West. Welcome back to another episode of The Waste Report with me, Spider, and of course our hero, Chunky, the no waste monkey, the evil, the dreaded Garbage Gator. Dun dun dun! Out of our natural habitat, which is the Walden West dining hall, where Chunky's usually hanging by his vine, and if kids waste food in the dining hall on their plates, we put that food waste into Chunky's bucket, we measure it throughout the week, and if kids do a really good job, then Chunky won't slide down the vine and get eaten by the Garbage Gator, and they will be what we call a friend of Chunky. Well, right now, I think all of you out there are friends of Chunky because you're watching this video, and hopefully you watched our previous two other videos. In episode number 1, we talked about where your food comes from. We traced it back to its origins, how much energy was involved, resources were involved, and that when you throw food away, it's not just the food you're wasting, but it's all the things that went into the production of that food as well. And then in episode number 2, we talked about if you throw something away, then where is away? And as a lot of you know out there, it is the landfill. A big garbage dump where everything that we throw into the trash just gets put into a big old pile. And who knows what happens to it after that. I think that's a subject for another episode that we're going to have later. Well, before we get to what episode 3 is all about, there's been a question on a lot of people's minds. People have been wondering, hey Spider, what has Chunky and the Gator been up to in your house? What have they been doing? Are they bored? Are they cooped up? Are they just moping around? Well, one thing I can say for sure is don't worry about Chunky at all, because Chunky has been, I think, having a pretty good time with this whole shelter-in-place thing. He's been enjoying himself here in Santa Cruz at my house. I mean, the dude's been chilling by my hot tub, taking outdoor showers. He's been hanging out with my cats. He's been lifting weights, because Chunky, he's got to keep his, big buff monkey figure, it's got to stay ripped. And so he's been working out. Turns out he's pretty good at playing with Legos. I had no idea he's such an amazing Lego builder, but anyway, he's been shooting hoops. He's quite the baller. I mean, he made one basket the other day that I just could not believe. We were just like, oh, yeah. He's been hanging in trees around my house, of course, as you would expect. He's been learning how to skateboard. You can't live in Santa Cruz without learning how to skateboard, right? I mean, he's taking a couple of, biffs and bales. He's eating some concrete for breakfast, but comes with the territory. That's just part of the deal. He's been going on bike rides, and one of his favorite things, he's been jumping on this little trampoline that we have. He loves that. It's so much fun. As for the Gator, I don't really know what's going on with the Gator because he hasn't really moved since he got here in my house. Been kind of blocking my keyboard this entire time. Maybe it's because he's a sit and wait style predator. Maybe? I don't know. Maybe he's nocturnal. Maybe late at night, after hours, he wakes up and walks around the house. I try not to think about that too much. But anyway, welcome. This is episode 3 of The Waste Report. What we're going to be doing, as always, is giving you something to think about, something to ponder for a little bit. Here it is. I would like you to think about this time around is this. If you have food left on your plate that you just can't finish, or you don't want to finish, are there any other options for that food waste other than putting it into the trash? Is there anything else that could be done with it? Whether it be non-edible food or edible food, there have to be some options instead of putting it into a trash can. This is going to be the thing I want you to ponder right now. What can we do with food waste other than put it in the trash? I will give you a moment to think about that. Maybe even pause the video. And right now would be a good time to do that because I'm going to strike my ponder pose. Ready? And pause. Did you pause it? Okay, if you did, that means that maybe you thought about a few things that you can do with food waste other than put it in the trash. Now, I have some ideas that I'd like to share with you now. These are things that I do in my everyday life. There's one thing, though, that I don't do that, I don't know, maybe something you could do. Anyway, thing number one, leftovers. You've all heard that term before, leftovers. If you don't finish food on your plate, put it into a container, stick it in the fridge. Something that we do here in my house all the time. We have a whole bunch of reusable containers. If you don't like what's on your plate, you scrape it into that container, you stick it in the fridge, and you can have it for leftovers later. There you go. You successfully avoided throwing food waste in the trash and having it go to the landfill. Thing number two that we do in our house a lot, and things that you might do in your house as well, is if you can't finish your food, maybe there's somebody else in the house that does want to finish your food. What if you're sitting there eating something on your plate and you're like, I'm not so into this right now? You might make somebody really happy who's next to you. Now, a little disclaimer, of course, we want to be careful with this. You don't necessarily want to share your food with people that don't live in the same household as you, non-family members that you are not close to in your house. You might want to avoid this one. It's an idea you have successfully avoided throwing it in the trash. Thing number three that we do around my house that I think is really cool, well, there's two different parts of thing number three. Part number one is we have something called a worm bin. Maybe you've heard of a worm bin before. We have these special worms, they're called red worms, and they love to eat food waste. And it turns out when they poop, it's called worm castings, and my garden absolutely loves those worm castings. They sell special canisters and bins. You can get fancy with it if you want, but it doesn't have to be fancy at all. A worm bin can just be a plastic tub that you drill a few holes in, that not too big because you don't want the worms to escape. You can start putting shredded newspaper and get some red worms, put them in there, and throw some food scraps in there, and the worms love it. And they're very low maintenance. Worms are very easy pets to have. Also, part two of thing number three is I have some compost bins at my house. Now, there's probably going to be some other Walden West videos out there that go into a lot of detail about the best ways to compost, but you can see here that my composters are a style called a tumbling composter. They have a little hatch lid on them. We take food waste and we throw it in there. Keep in mind that when you put food waste into a compost, you don't want to put meat or dairy products in there, but just about anything else you can put in there. My tumbling composters, every once in a while, we actually spin them around and it speeds up the composting process. We also add a little bit of manure that I get at the garden store. Sometimes we add dry leaves to it as well. It's nice to have a little bit of a mixture going in there. And you spin it around, and in a couple of months, 3 months, I have nice soil for my garden. Pretty cool. Now, a fourth thing that some of you might be able to do that's a little bit more uncommon would be if you had some kind of domestic livestock animals at your house. I have some friends that have chickens at their house, and I happen to know that their chickens love some of the vegetable food scraps that they don't want. The tops of strawberries, carrot shavings, any little ends of vegetables that you might not want, they set them aside and they feed them to their chickens. And the chickens love it. Maybe you have goats or pigs, animals like that, perhaps, that you could feed. One thing that I want to say, since we're mentioning feeding animals, is you probably don't want to feed your dog or your cat or other type of animal that lives in your house with you, your human food. Definitely, I'm going to leave you with this. Never, ever, ever promise that you are never, ever gonna feed wild animals. Wild animals need to stay wild. We don't want to feed them with our human food. Even if that cute little chipmunk comes up to you, don't feed it. Even if your cute little kitty comes up to you and says, please, please feed me. I just want a little bit of your salmon. Nope. No. not gonna do it. I hope that you have learned a thing or two, giving you something to think about, and maybe when you have a plate of food in front of you next time, you're gonna start thinking about these things, and you are going to do what you can to keep that food waste from going in the trash. Sound good? Now, a lot of you out there already know this, but Chunky the No Waste Monkey is one of the world's only songwriting monkeys. In fact, he might be the only songwriting monkey. I dare you to think of another. You won't. Very weirdly, once in a while, Chunky will write a new song and put it in the Garbage Gator's mouth. I don't know why. Maybe it's just for safekeeping. Maybe late at night the Garbage Gator won't stop talking and Chunky wants him to be quiet. So he's like, here, eat this. Shoves it in his mouth. I don't know. Anyway, why don't we go ahead and check the Gator's mouth and see if we have a new song. Oh my, there appears to be a new song in the Gator's mouth. I'm kind of scared of the Gator. I'm gonna try sneaking up on him and grabbing the song. You gotta be real quick. I got it, and I'm okay. I appreciate your concern. Let's check it out. Oh, look. How appropriate. Chunky, we were just talking about composting. Look at this song. Under the Compost. All right, well, interesting. It looks like Chunky wants me to bust out the 12-string guitar for this one. There it is. We're gonna turn this song up to 12. Cool. I might as well grab the harmonica too. Oh, looks like the Gator's been protecting it for me, along with the other wildlife in the house. There we go. All right, I think I got it. There we go. We're all ready. Under the Compost, everyone. So check it out. There is some audience participation in this song. And it looks like there's a part where I'm going to count to 3. I'm going to go 1, 2, 3. And you shout out, under the compost. Really loud. You got to be like, under the compost. And then I'm going to say a line, and then you say it again. Under the compost. 2 times. And then I say another line, and you say it again. Under the compost. I say another line, and you say it again. Under the compost. And I'll say another line, and then finally you're going to say, under the compost. Compost. You'll hear it. Why don't we just play it, and you'll figure it out. It goes a little something like this. When the sun beats down and the food waste starts to rise, all those decomposers are making the pile feel so high. Under the compost, mixed with some leaves, in the garden with my baby, is where I'll be. Ready? 1, 2, 3. Under the we'll be breaking it down, and we'll spread it around. Our leftovers will spoil. We'll be making some soil under the compost. Compost. Take one, Spider. Compost pile where the worms and fungi eat all the leftover veggies and banana